I think there's a question that is becoming the elephant in the room in a lot of Christian circles. It seems like every other decade, Christian ministries get in trouble and scrutiny happens and they end up being part of the headlines. Instead of reporting about what's going on, they become the report. What do you say to those people, especially the Christian community, and what's happening with recognized ministries, even ministries falling right before our eyes? How should the Christian community respond? Because I'm watching a lot of my friends that are leaders, and I call them privately and say, hey, stop the gossip. Don't spread more poison. Be wise on how we need to answer. In the 80s, we saw the Jim Bakkers, we saw the Jimmy Swaggarts, and the church kind of responded differently. But what lessons can we learn from the past on how to respond to what ministries are going through today?
As I look at it, I'm like you, where a lot of my friends are, going through tough times because of choices they've made. Choices have consequences. So we've got to remember that God gave us His Word as the guidelines for how to live an appropriate life. And when we choose to ignore the guidance that God has given to us, and we decide instead that we're going to follow what feels right to us, or what other people are encouraging us to do, or what will bring us fame or fortune or whatever it might be, rather than choosing the pathway that God has laid out for us, there are going to be consequences. And when we reject God's ways, it's going to be negative consequences for us. There's no surprise. We shouldn't be shocked. We can anticipate that. We know that that's coming because God Himself is truth. And when He gives us His words can't help but be truth. And if we choose to reject that, we've chosen something other than truth, and we're going to reap the negative consequences of it. And so when people come up and they start giving me a hard time about pastors or other kinds of Christian leaders who have fallen, I remind them, hey, you know what? They're people too. I'm not saying what they did was right. I'm simply saying it's not that surprising. We're all sinners. From the moment that we're born into sin. That's the legacy of Adam and Eve. And there's only one antidote to that, and that's knowing and loving and serving and confessing our sins to Jesus Christ, relying completely upon Him every moment of every day. And there are going to be moments of weakness where we don't rely upon Him, where we don't embrace the principles that He taught us for life. And those choices are going to have consequences. So, yeah, I mean, in a way, it's not surprising that Christian leaders fall. I mean, you would hope that they'd be stronger than they prove to be sometimes, but I'm no different. You're no different. We're all sinners. We all make bad choices sometimes, and we all have to deal with the consequences of it.